Hi, my name is Jude Matulich-Hall, and this is Titles, Talk, and Tipples. My guest this evening is Ryder Kinlay, the author of REHAB and David Longbottom's Misadventures. Welcome, Ryder. Thank you so much for joining me.
G'day, Jude. How are you going?
Good. How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad. Hot and sweaty, thanks.
So see, it's getting cold here, but you're heading into summer, right?
Yeah, but in Darwin, where I'm from, there's two seasons. There's hot and hotter.
Okay.
It's like, well, it's the dry and the wet season. We don't get like spring, autumn, winter, summer. We go from being we're tropical, like Thailand and other places like that, where we get a lot of rain or we get a lot of build-up and heat.
Yeah. So I'm in the Pacific Northwest, so it's been better the last couple years, but for the most part we have kind of gray and dark. Gray and rainy dark. So
yeah, no, I lived in London for a while, so I imagine it's a bit like that.
Yeah, it's very similar to England.
Yeah.
So what are we drinking tonight?
Tonight, this afternoon here in Australia, I'm drinking a glass of non-alcohol Sauvignon Blanc white wine.
Very nice. And I'm drinking the same, actually. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. Yeah, much sweeter than I like, but I do add a little bit of bubbly water to it to tame down the sugar.
Sometimes it needs a day.
Yeah. All right, so we're here to talk about your books, your how you go about your finding your muse. I mean, anything that you would like to share. So why don't you tell me about your book, REHAB?
Okay, so REHAB was my debut, and it took me probably about 12 months to write REHAB from beginning to end to publish. Longer than some, but then also much shorter than others with their debut, but it was a process, because with me, I am an ex-journalist, so I do have sort of used writing as my trade, as my living before. But writing as a journalist and writing as an author are two very, very, very different things. So having to get into the mindset, learning how to do, because I was also self-taught in writing books. Like it was just all absorbing things from people on Facebook, reading, and then just going through editing processes and learning different things and being mentored by some other authors in the industry. So learning all about that story and tell, like show and tell stuff, and how to sort of weave a plot and then writing 60,000 bloody words. It was like quite a learning experience for me. And anyone who says that you can write a book, well, yeah, you can, but it's still a process. It's still an art form to learn. And so it took me 12 months, even though I had an idea of what to write, and even though a lot of it was inspired by my own experiences in a drug and alcohol rehab. And some of the characters in REHAB are truly inspired and exaggerated, but they're inspired by real people that I've met. A lot of the thinking in it is from my own thinking of how I thought when I was an alcoholic, or I'm still an alcoholic, but how I was thinking, my thoughts of when I was in rehab. There's a lot of me in that book. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of stuff, if you knew me, there's a lot of little personal things in there that you would never know as a reader, but are actually things that I actually thought or actually are related to me. But yeah, I mean, of course, it's all fiction. Like, you know,
Right. Yeah.
Like I didn't experience someone dying in a rehab, and I didn't,
Right.
you know, have know of any spooky kid who was able to like reap revenge the way that Robbie, one of the characters, did in the book. But yeah, a lot of it was also inspired by my two literary, I wouldn't say idols, but people that I look up to, which is Stephen King and Richard Lehman, who I tried to model my writing, I guess, until I get my own voice, on being a mix between King and Lehman, where King, I give the character development and all that extra stuff that King is so good at, and can often be criticised for, because of the waffling aspect of our beloved Uncle Stevie. But
I like the waffling too, though. You know, I enjoy
but that's where I brought the layman side of things in, because I actually love Richard Lehman, and I love his books, and I consider him the grandfather of splatterpunk. You know, like he's but I like how he's much pacier, he's shorter, he's brutal. He, you know, he gets to the point. He doesn't waffle on. So I kind of wanted my way of writing. What I wanted to do was sort of merge the two styles together, where you get the character development, you get the attachment to the characters, you feel for them, you root for even the bad guys sometimes, you know, depending on how it's written, and then but have the short, sharp, pacey brutality that Lehman has. Now, the criticism that some people have had of Rehab is that it wasn't splatterpunk, that it was, because with the cover and the warning and a couple of the scenes, everyone was thinking it's going to be pure splatterpunk. It's not. It's got two very, very extreme scenes in it. Well, I didn't think they were extreme, but yes, there's two, like the two pivotal scenes in it that are pretty full on, no holds barred, with the blood and the brutality. But the rest, it's mainly a drama, bit of romance, bit of thriller, with a splash of splatterpunk and paranormal weaved in through it. So it's a mixed bag of fish. So the criticism that I took away from that was that it was like, the people who didn't like it said that it had too much romance in it. And I'm like, okay. Then I had one criticism from an unknown person on Amazon saying that the relationship was unbelievable, that how could they have jumped from one relationship to the next? And I'm like, well, that does happen.
Yeah, it does.
Anyway,
yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'll take it. It's my first 1 star. It's from someone who I don't know, so that means my book's getting read. So that's amazing. But yeah, so I guess my muse was my own experiences, and also Stephen King and Richard Lehman in their way of writing and their styles of writing, and you know, I guess the paranormal aspect came from my Stephen King reading, but the brutal scenes in there are very much inspired by Richard Lehman. Yeah. So sort of like, because Richard Lehman was once described by not a critic, but by a reviewer, as being Stephen King without a conscience, and I guess that's kind of what I would like to sort of aspire to be, Stephen King without a conscience and without the waffle, like
just
but you can, like, that's no criticism of King, because King is like the master, and like I adore his work as well. But yeah, I do tend to flick through a lot of his pages when like he starts going on and on and on and on and on, and I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I've got that Uncle Stevie now. Come on, please. So yeah, but that's a bit about Rehab, and then Rehab's doing extraordinarily well.
Yes, it is.
Been out for 4 months, and it's selling every day on Amazon. Selling
That's
sometimes
fantastic.
4 or 5 copies a day on Amazon even, and it's people love it. Like, a lot of people love it. Some people hate it, but
the reviews are great, and I mean, it's still selling, right? And those bad reviews have not deterred people from buying it, so that's fantastic. And I remember one of the day that the book paid for itself. You made a post that said she paid for herself. It was
in the first month.
So exciting, yeah! In the first month, it paid itself off.
It's pretty amazing, because I was looking at the chart, and I'm going to put up a chart on her, maybe on her 4-month or 5th month anniversary, because I've spoken to others in the industry, and they said it's really good, Danielle, that you're doing this, because not many debut authors without a publishing house behind them even get as many reviews as you have. You seem to have gotten like stacks of reviews. You are selling, like, I think in 4 months I've had, say, 7 days of where Rehab didn't sell on Amazon. Yeah. And that's on Amazon. And you have to also remember that Rehab's home started at Godless, right? So I've got those sales as well. Yeah. So I think she's getting up to, well, she's definitely over 500 readers now, definitely over that. And she's like, I keep on like going and thinking, going on to Amazon, like going, okay, all right, brace yourself.
Yeah.
Like, because I've made I've sort of been thinking from a business point of view whether or not I should put her on to Kindle Unlimited, KU. But at the moment I don't need to. But like, so I keep on going on there just to see how she's going. And the other day she sold 9 in one day, and I'm like going, oh my goodness, you're a fighter. She's Summer and Rehab are just, they are the fighters, so they're good.
That's great.
Out in the jungle and doing okay.
That's fantastic. So my book just released yesterday. So
congratulations.
It was officially yesterday. There was like a really soft release that I put on my website, and to the people that follow my actual novel page on Facebook and stuff on Wednesday. And so really it's been out. This is the 4th day. And I can't tell you how many times I've checked those numbers. It's like, my publisher told me, just check it once a day. Yeah, I think I checked it 10 times today already. Just watching the numbers.
Are you doing well?
I feel like I'm doing well. I mean, I started at, how it has so I don't know how many copies I've sold. That's the unfortunate thing about self-publishing or independent publishing and traditional publishing is that my publisher sees the exact numbers. I only see the rating. So that's what I have to go on. Yeah. But so the rating was, I started at like 1 millionth on the bestseller list, right? And so like, and then the next day it was like 700,000, and then the next day it like plummeted to 500,000, and it's just so I'm like I'm at 100,000 and something now from a million. So it's like even though it's not in the triple digits or single digits, it is still like 100,000 from a million.
What category are you fighting in?
So it was really interesting. I was surprised that the Amazon put me under dark fantasy horror, which was really surprising to me because there is like gothic horror type aspect, demons and hell and stuff. But I was surprised that they actually put it under horror. But it's dark fantasy, basically. Yeah. And dark fantasy, there's some steampunk elements. There's definitely that fantastical element to it. And then somehow I got under paranormal and urban fantasy. So it's really interesting. I think I even asked my publisher why he didn't put it under steampunk and stuff. And he said, the box isn't there to check. So so it's just like Amazon chose where to put it. And so I'm kind of stuck with where Amazon put it.
That's the thing, like, because when I put Rehab in, like, I put it under the categories, the only categories that were applicable, sort of general fiction, horror, and literature. I think was like they don't have a lot of categories, and like so I'm like, and then all of a sudden, like because the highest that Rehab reached on the Amazon charts was 49, number 49 in occult horror. So they classified my book as occult horror. Then but like it reached 49, and it's still in the top 1,000. Like it's in the top 1,000 things. But yeah, I know when the first week that I released Rehab, I was constantly checking the rankings as well as the sales. I was like, oh yeah.
Even though I told myself I'm not going to, I do. I hold off for like 5 minutes.
I didn't quite as much, really, because mine debuted on Godless, so I didn't see any numbers really at all until I went on to Amazon. So yeah.
So with Godless, is it like Amazon in that you needed to be with them for a while before you put it out on other platforms, or how did that work? Okay. Yeah, so I'm kind of stuck with Amazon for 3 months, and then we can start putting it out on like Kobo and doing the ebooks.
So you've gone like with Amazon for 3 months, and then you're going wide. Yeah. See, I went wide from the start because for me to be on Godless, it meant that I had to be wide. So I went wide from the start. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah.
I don't know if that was the best thing, but it worked for me.
It's working. Yeah, exactly. And like for me, it's I wanted someone else to do the work for me. And so, there's good and bad in all aspects, right? So there's in self-publishing, it's like it's all on your shoulders, but you get to make all the decisions and you have the control. And so that's the upside to like nobody's going to tell you what to do with your book.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely pros and cons to being self-published, and there's definitely pros and cons, I'm sure, to being traditionally published.
Yeah, I have a little bit of help, but I have to give up some decisions. I don't get to make all the decisions. So,
Yeah, but it's still kudos, hats off to you for getting a publisher.
Thank you. It took me 4 years to write it. So, you were talking about it took you a year to write your book. It took me 4 years to write my debut novel.
Yeah.
And it took me a year to find a publisher. And so
I never really thought about the whole publisher route. I've said this before, but I think it's because I was too lazy and a bit too scared.
Yeah,
like, you know, but yeah, I mean, I probably would have sat on rehab for a bit longer, and it might have even done better if I had sat on it a bit longer. But, you know, Drew from Godless pushed me, like, not pushed me, like, you know, but like, he was like, great cover. When are we going to bloody release it? Like, and like, he was the one who, well, he didn't say bloody, like, that's me, but he's a Yank through and through, whereas I'm an Aussie through and through. But yeah, so he was the one who sort of like prodded me in the shoulder, between the shoulder blades, to make me jump, and jump I did. I jumped and freefalled for as long as I could, and then got the yay.
Yeah. Well, and it seems you've taken all the right steps. It's completely working for you. So, you know, kudos to you for, gosh, I've it's just been so much fun seeing the success, because, you know, we were waiting for it for so long, and seeing your process and stuff, and to find out that it's doing so well just totally makes me so happy.
No,
great job.
Thank you.
Tell me about David Longbottom. I love that name.
David Longbottom. He's become a bit of a fan favourite. He's actually really helped me in the build a reputation, I guess, in the extreme horror world, because after the whole rehab thing, everyone criticising it for not being extreme enough and rah, even though I had never gone into the writing game thinking of being an extreme horror writer. That wasn't my aim. My aim was just to be a horror writer. And anyway, David Longbottom came around. I was chatting to another author friend of mine, R.F. Blackstone, who's an Aussie guy, and he's become quite a good friend, and he's also my beta reader, and in many ways he's my sounding board for David Longbottom, the series. And we were just talking, and I hadn't written anything. I mean, it's weird because it's only been 4.5 months, and now Longbottom's been around for what, maybe 2.5 months.
Oh, wow.
And but it felt like it was forever. Like, I felt like I'd, like, you know, like, and people were like sort of like not demanding, but like they loved rehab, they wanted more stories. I had no back catalogue, you know. I had no back catalogue. I couldn't. So once all those man, like, they read those books like the motherfuckers, you know, like they read them so fucking fast.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like going,
slow down.
And so all these hardcore people had read rehab, and like they're going, well, the ones that liked it were going, well, where's more? And I'm like going, so I mean, I've got a sequel planned for rehab. But I was only going to write a short story, Bloody Moon, which is the first one in the Longbottom series. I was just going to write a series of short stories, and they're all going to be different, and they weren't going to be connected, but I was just going to pump out a few short stories just to keep my name out there, really.
Sure.
And I put out Bloody Moon. And fuck me, everyone loved Longbottom. Like, they loved him. And I'm just like going, he's a for those who haven't read David Longbottom, he is super rich beyond your dreams. Like, you know, rich that not even a real person is, probably. Yeah. He has a mobile phone that he has lost that's worth more than a Sydney Harbourside apartment. Like, so, you know, and this is actually true. If you Google it, a supernova pink diamond iPhone is $50 million. So this is the type of guy who has that sort of money at his disposal. And he's a louch. He's like, you know, second generation. So he doesn't work for his money. He just has money. And he's very, very much Australia's answer to Patrick Bateman, in the sense that he's good looking, you know, rich, but he's very self-centered and like blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But he's got the taste for killing. Anyway, I can't go into too much more without giving away,
give stuff away,
because they are shorts and they are series, but they are they've proven to my readers and to the general readership and the industry that I can write extreme. They are brutal. They're short. They're very much how they're written in, especially Tine, This Is Not an Exit, which is actually the second one, which is actually in some ways a tribute. Well, it is. It's a tribute to American Psycho, because American Psycho was released 30 years this year ago.
Oh my gosh! And it was that long ago? Holy cow.
I know. Doesn't it make you feel bloody old?
Yeah.
And in This Is Not an Exit, he talks about Patrick Bateman. It's a tribute to American Psycho. And I did intentionally write it in a very similar style to Bret Easton Ellis, you know, very sort of unaffected, like, you know, very, like, there's extreme brutality, but written in such a way that it's like, well, you know, like it's and I've kind of written, I do kind of write my brutal scenes like that. I have had people, my beta readers, and someone who I do look up to, Simon McCarty, who in the industry is known for having most of his books getting banned on Amazon for their sickness and for because they're sick. But he gave me a compliment. He said, you know, you've written this like you're a fucking bloke. Like, because I've gotten into David Longbottom's head so well, he reckons, that, and I'm just like going, oh, fuck me. And but he's become a fan favorite. He's a lot of fun. He's the type of character that is kind of not the lovable rascal, but he's just someone that you love to hate to love. You know, like, he's got that, you know, sort of like real crazy bit of charm in him. But he's so self-absorbed, he's so self-centered. Everything's about him. You know, everything's about him. And obviously it being written from first point of view, you get into his mentality, and you like, I don't know, it's just fun, and it's pretty brutal. The third one, which is coming out in a couple of weeks on Godless and then on Amazon, it's called Dia de los Death. Obviously a play on Dia de los Muertos. And, you know, this time round it's going to be creepier, and it's not going to be as extreme, although it does have extreme parts in the end. It's more a play on See, if I say more,
you don't have to.
I always give away too much about Bloody Moon. Bloody Moon was such a success with the readers that read it because of its real. There was a twist at the ending, but then there was another wham of an unexpected twist, and and that's why I keep on telling people, read the books in sequence, because each book refers back to something in the first book, because it's a series, and that's the way I hope to get you to read all my bloody 3 books so far. But it's going to be creepy. It's going to be extreme, but he's got a girlfriend this time. He's loved up, which, God, David Longbottom loved up, but man. And his best mate is pissed off about it. He's feeling a bit jealous, a bit sort of like left out, third wheel type thing. And his mum is not impressed. So, and he's a mummy's boy. His girlfriend's invited to Halloween party to meet the folks. Does she survive? Well, she may survive the Halloween party, but knowing David Longbottom, everyone knows that she doesn't, just wants to know how he does it. That's all. Right. So that one comes out on the 24th of October.
Just in time for Halloween. That's great.
Yep, it's part of the 31 days of godless horror for the month of Halloween. It's part of the lineup. And, there's a bit of a buzz around it. If people buy my book within the first 48 hours of it being released, they go into a draw for $31 Godless Horrors gift voucher, courtesy of Drew, the owner, and also Christine Pfeiffer, who has become like a super fan of extreme horror authors in the industry and Godless. So she's become a Godless Horrors angel of sorts, which is a new thing. So,
okay.
Thanks.
Maybe they should be called demons or something. But that's great.
So Drew and Chrissy are putting their weight behind it with that little promo, and and then there's more Longbottom to come after that, but that's the next one that's coming up.
Do you already have the stories in your head, or you just gonna? No.
Well, the thing is, this will be kind of the last one, and then, well, it won't be kind of the last one. What's happening is that one comes out in a couple of weeks, then November, December, I'm releasing a paperback collection with a bonus story. Okay. So there'll be an extra story, in like proper full-on story in there that's only going to be released as part of the collection. That will be coming out as a paperback at the end of the year. And then next year there will be a standalone novella. Don't know if I'm going to make it the climax of the series or not, but it's going to be bloody eagerly anticipated because it's called Mummy Dearest. And anyone who knows the Longbottom series will be like going, oh dear, what the heck is Ryder Kinlay going to write in this one? What's Longbottom going to be doing? So, so that'll be coming out next year. So I think that at this stage, that's going to be the series. So it'll be these 3, the collection with the extra one, and then there'll be Mummy Dearest as the climatic finale. Does David Longbottom die?
Oh,
well, he might. See?
Yeah. So just have to wait to find out.
So that's it. Because I've got like I've still got the Rehab sequel to write. I've got a Rehab recollection to write. David Longbottom's been in my ear for the past 3 or 4 months, and
got a lot
all good things come to an end sometimes.
Sure, maybe,
but we don't know. I might leave it where I could bring him back.
Yeah, and so have you? Do you have ideas? And you don't have to say any details, but do you have ideas of what the second Rehab, the sequel to Rehab?
So it's going to be called Robbie. Have you read Rehab?
I haven't. I've started to, and so
no, that's all right.
I usually, so I'm not doing a lot of reading.
Robbie is Summer's son. Summer. This is not really giving away much, but Summer dies in the book. Now, Robbie is her son, and he's the gifted one. And he has a very, very strong gift, and I can't go into too much detail with Rehab.
Sure.
Otherwise, I just spoil the plot for people. But Robbie picks up. It's going to be kind of. It's not going to be at all storyline at all, but it's kind of like Dr. Sleep with The Shining. It's going to pick up with the character, like the little boy's character,
right,
as an adult.
Sure.
So Robbie is going to be all grown up in this one, and it's going to be a story involving some of the main characters like Kate and Samson, who are in Rehab. And then you never know, someone might make a reappearance somehow, because it is a paranormal book.
Yeah,
it's
that's true.
Again, it's going to be paranormal horror. It won't be as much romance in this one, because this one's more about Robbie. And it's not going to be romance. It's going to be more paranormal horror with a couple of extreme scenes in it, so maybe drama, paranormal.
So it'll, besides a little bit less romance, but it will follow the Rehab.
It will be a proper sequel. It'll be very much, as I said,
same
like
style.
a Dr. Sleep style sequel to Rehab. So as Stephen King did with The Shining. So it's picking up from the young boys in Rehab as an adult in the sequel.
So you're sticking to
this.
Hoping
to get.
Sorry. Sorry. You're sticking to the stuff.
We did it again.
You go ahead.
No, you go.
Okay. I was just, you're sticking to the style of Rehab. You're not taking it into the splatterpunk extreme. Okay. Yes.
It'll be more splattery punky in parts, but it's still going to be very much a Rehab style. It's the Rehab sequel, just because I've proven to people that I can write splatterpunk. Rehab was, as we said, was never intended to be splatterpunk. Sure. And its sequel is not going to be trying to make up for what the naysay. There's enough people who like Rehab for how it is, and that's how I want to keep the Rehab sort of franchise, so to speak, if you want to call it that. Here's my dog. She's jumping on my lap. So I'm not playing with myself. But so it's very much going to be written in exactly the same style, except it might be a bit tighter in points of views and things like that, because I'll have a bit more experience, having written, So I'll be able to I'll be able to pick up some of the stylistic mistakes that I made in Rehab, which I know I have, but it was my debut, and I and now, you know, it'll be interesting to see how much once I write Robbie, see how much my style's improved, maybe, you know, or whatever, now that I've sort of like got a few more books under my belt. Because Rehab, I'm looking at releasing late next year. I've got another novel that's completely separate to both Longbottom and Rehab that I'm hoping to get out in February, March, because once I get this whole Longbottom stuff out, I'm concentrating on To Goose, which is my standalone novel that I'm hoping to release in March.
Wow, that's great. So you're just writing like a mad woman. That's fantastic.
Yes and no. Yeah, no. I mean, I still work, obviously. I'm not a full-time author and all the rest, but, you know, I guess I'm building up a bit of a catalogue. Yeah.
And so Rehab was around 60,000 words. Is Robbie going to be a similar length?
Yeah. Robbie, I think, and lots of people who've read Rehab love Robbie. Robbie warrants a full length novel. Like he's got a lot to say, and he's got a lot to catch the readers up on.
Very nice. That's fantastic. So excited.
Whereas Mummy Dearest for Longbottom will probably just be a novella. It'll probably be about 30,000, 40,000 words.
Oh, okay. So that's a decent length too, though. And the other Longbottoms, are they around that 30,000, or are they?
No, they're only short. They're only between 8,000 to 12,000 words.
Okay.
They're just short stories.
Yeah,
that's all they are. But sorry, she's biting my hand.
Stop biting your mom.
Tinay was about 12,000 words. Bloody Moon was about 8, and the next one's about 8. So yeah, they range between 8 to 12,000 words. So they're just short stories. But yeah, then there'll be the paperback collection, and then there'll be the novella of Mummy Dearest, which will be probably about 30,000 to 40,000 words.
Yeah. So do you write every day? Like what are your writing habits? Can we talk about your writing habits?
Yeah, sure. It's not something that people should emulate. When I'm writing, Jessie, Jessie, please. I'm a bit sporadic with my writing. Like if I'm writing to a deadline, like I have been, I will write every day, of course.
Sure,
But I like at the moment this week I've given myself this week and half of next week off before I start writing something that I need to write that's top secret at the moment. So I've got a deadline, and so I'm going to concentrate on that next week, but then I'll be back into Longbottom. But I try to take like a week to a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks off between each project at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And in that time I concentrate on catching up on my reading and my reviews for my reading for other authors, and watching Netflix and all the rest. You know, but like I'll spend, if I'm just starting a project, I'll spend most of the weekend writing, like Saturday and Sunday, just writing. And then I do the very, 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 very naughty thing because I edit whilst I write.
Oh, you do?
I can't help myself. I find it a way for me to get back into the groove. But so I'll go back at least one chapter, and then I'll edit that chapter, and then I'll start writing the next chapter.
Mm-hmm.
I just find that it gets me back into the headspace,
Sure.
And that works for me. But I write every day, but I might write like only an hour. Sometimes I might just do all editing.
Yeah.
Like, and sometimes I might write 500 words. Sometimes on my best ever day, I think I've churned out in rehab. My best ever day, I churned out 7,000 words one day.
One day, wow, yeah.
I wrote maybe even closer to 10. I wrote 3 chapters in one day.
Wow.
Yeah, they needed a lot of editing, but I did. I got the 3 chapters out, and but I would say I average really normally. Probably about 1,000 words, 1,000 to between 1,000 to 3,000 words a day is how much I average, but that's not every day. And as I said, some days everyone, like, and I'm sure you're the same, and I'm sure all the other writers are the same. Sometimes you might know exactly what you want to say. You've got the story in your head. Mm-hmm. Even though generally I'm a pantser, but like, for example, this one that I just wrote that's yet to be published, I knew the plot from beginning to end. Mm-hmm. But trying to write it,
right, it's a completely different story.
Like,
right?
I had writer's block, like trying to write it for half the time that I was writing it, and then all of a sudden, like, I just managed to break through that wall and write it. But I was like, that was weirdly enough the first time that I ever had almost like outlined a plot, because everything else. Well, I've only got 2 other books, but like Rehab was complete pantsing. Like I just wrote that. It was just pantser. Like, I came up with the plot as I was writing it. And then I had to go back at the end, halfway through, because there was a major plot hole, because I told the readers who the killer was halfway through the story. Like, because a rookie mistake, but and so then I had to rewrite the whole last thing. But that's what I am. I generally speaking, I'm a pantser. Like I know a lot of authors get all arty-farty about it and say their characters speak, and like your characters take. It's true. My characters, David Longbottom tells me how the fuck he wants to murder somebody.
Isn't that weird? Yeah. Every writer I talk to, it is a phenomena with all of us, is how the characters kind of control things. Like, I've had characters completely flip-flop their personality on me, because I just, like, the book I'm writing now, my main character is a very stoic female warrior type person, but like I started her younger, and she's actually quite silly, and I was really surprised that she cracks jokes and things like that, and I'm like, where is this coming from? And it just happens, and so it is bizarre how the characters do kind of take on a life of their own.
They do. And I mean, that's just like I've got a couple of Easter eggs in my Longbottom series with Rehab, some bit of my own world building, so to speak. And, you know, I didn't know, like, I mean, Robbie is a big Easter egg in my next book that comes out. And I didn't know what Robbie wanted to say, but Robbie told me.
Yeah.
He said, and because it's been so long since I wrote Rehab, I forgot how Robbie spoke, but he came back.
Yeah.
He said, this is what I'm going to say.
Yep.
Okay. All right. You say that. But
well,
yeah, so
yeah. And whatever that is, I don't know. See, I work in mental health, and part of what I work with an IFS program, and it's the Internal Family Systems. Have you heard of this?
No.
Yeah. So internal family systems, it's just that it works on the fact that we don't have just one personality within us. We have many, many personalities within us. Not to say that we all have split personalities, not personality disorder, but we do have, we are made up of many different personalities. And so who knows, maybe our characters are those aspects of ourselves coming through,
well, it could very well be,
Yeah.
That for a lot of horror writers, horror authors, or especially extreme horror authors, God help us if that's the case.
Well, we all have.
There's a lot of like internally psychotic, savage and violent people out there.
Well, isn't it Stephen King who said something like he writes about the monsters, so it's his way of not
saying.
Yeah, so
he writes about his nightmares so he can sleep at night or something like that.
Something like that. So,
yeah.
Maybe writing about it is helping to give light to that aspect without having to act on it.
Yeah, well, very, 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 very feasible. But God help us, there's a lot of psychotic people that both you and I know them, because people like Simon McCarty and Sean Hawker, fuck me. Like, they've got some pretty sick things going on in their heads. But anyway.
Yeah, it's I don't read extreme horror, extreme splatterpunk.
I never really read extreme much, except for Richard Lehman, but like, and Richard Lehman in a lot of ways is probably, well, he died 20 years ago, so there's a lot of things that have happened, and it's become more extreme and more brutal, obviously, in authors' writings in that 20 years. But until recently, Richard Lehman was the most extreme that I'd ever read. Now I'm reading some stuff and I'm just like going, whoa, okay. Like, radio, like, this is like, I mean, I never planned on getting into the extreme horror industry. Like, that wasn't my plan. My plan was to become sort of like, I don't know, more Stephen King-ish, like
he's pretty like mellow compared to
like soft horror. Like, that was my ambition. And but somehow, and even as I said, Rehab isn't extreme horror, but somehow people seem to want me to go into extreme horror. So but I don't. That's good, and the readers, those readers who like my extreme horror stuff, well, that's great. But I consider myself to be a horror author in the sense where I write anything. Like, it can be soft horror, like Rehab, or or it can be extreme horror, like To Goose is going to be extreme horror. It's a novel. It's going to be extreme horror all the way through. It's not going to be It's going to be gritty. It's not going to be nice. I'm so looking forward to getting back into the headspace of getting Tagoose out, because Tagoose is something that I really think is going to be good. And it's basically about a young Australian girl, because that's another thing that I'm trying to keep with my with all my books, is to keep the Australian flavour in them, to not shy away from the fact that I'm Australian, like to embrace it and to use it and pivot off it. So Jessica, that's a placeholding name at the moment. I haven't decided what her real name is yet. She'll tell me. It might end up being Jessica, but at the moment I'm not happy with that name. But I'm sure she'll tell me sooner or later. But she is a young Australian girl of mixed heritage like me, who goes over to Honduras like I did, as an exchange student like I did. That's where the similarities end. So she goes over to Honduras, and it's basically a very, very brutal coming of age. It's set in the 1990s when I went, or to help give me the grittiness and reality, because it's set over in Honduras. It's not set here in Australia. It's set over in Honduras as I remember it back then. And it's also when Honduras is considered considered the most dangerous country in the world, with the amount of murders and everything that goes on over there. And then there was a whole lot of disappearances where people were taken and never found, so it's very much entrenched in that slice of history. It's surrounded and embedded in that history. She disappears. That's the whole point. And whether or not she's alive at the end, you'll find out. But once you read the book, but put it this way, it's not pretty. There's no romance in it. It's grim. It's brutal. It's real, because this could have happened. Yeah. But and it's going to be pretty savage at the end. And I'm toying up with a really bleak ending. But then, like, my beta readers and my other author friends are going, no, give it a little bit of a lighter ending. Like, you don't have to have a happy ever after ending, but, like, maybe just a little bit, give the readers something, rather than like punch, bang. Anyway, I'm really excited about that one. But Tagoose has been waylaid whilst I tie things up with Longbottom, and then I'm going to because I've pretty much not completely outlined it, but I have, even though I'm a pantser, I have got the beginning and the end. I just haven't got the middle. Sure. And I have started writing it. But I've just so I don't think it'll take me altogether that long to write it. Like, I'll probably spend my Christmas holidays half of my Christmas holidays writing it, and then I might look at taking a couple of weeks off sometime in the new year to get the bulk of it done, and then so I reckon I'll be able to get it out by March, maybe.
That's great. Fantastic.
But wow. I'm really excited about that one.
That's very exciting. So much going on.
Yeah, considering I wasn't published only, 4.5 about
months ago.
Rehab got published May 31st, June 1, May 31st is when Rehab was published.
Wow. And you're doing so much more. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing your writing journey with me. Thank
It's been lovely chatting to you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So, guys, here from Australia, I hope you enjoyed my chat with Jude. If you enjoyed this chat, please like, share, and subscribe to Jude's podcast. And and also buy my books.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, buy her books. Thank you.